FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino is sounding off against Representative Thomas Massie after the Kentucky congressman suggested that the FBI is trying to retaliate against whistleblowers in its January the 6th pipe bomb case.
Massie posted a letter on X that he says is from an attorney representing the most recent whistleblower regarding the investigation. The letter references a meeting that was held by the FBI on Thursday. It reads, in part, "It was obvious from the information provided by senior leadership in the Washington field office that this meeting is an attempt to identify the FBI whistleblower who made the protected disclosure to the U.S. Congress. Identifying the whistleblower serves only one purpose, which is to allow the FBI to retaliate."
Bongino responded to Massie's posting of the letter with a lengthy post of his own on X. He says, quote, "You continue to imply that the director and I are targeting investigators in the case. This is disgusting, even by the low standards many have for politicians. You know my number, and you're free to call me any time. But it's easier to tweet and throw BS bombs. We are passionate about solving this case, but a week of near 24-hour work on recent open source leads in the case has yet to produce a breakthrough. And some of the media reporting regarding prior persons of interest is grossly inaccurate and serves only to mislead the public." This case goes back to the night before the January the 6th Capitol riots, when security camera footage shows an unidentified person suspected of placing pipe bombs near the DNC and RNC headquarters here in Washington. Bongino said earlier this year that this investigation was one of his top priorities.
In his response to Massie, Bongino mentioned reports from the media regarding the case that he says are inaccurate. Many guessed that he was referring to a report from right-wing news outlet The Blaze. A recent report from The Blaze named a law enforcement officer as the pipe bomb suspect. That theory has been latched onto by some on the right who believe that the planting of the bombs was an inside job from law enforcement and intelligence officials. But an attorney for the officer named by the report gave a statement to the Washington Post calling the allegations recklessly false, absurd, and defamatory.
So this is, I think, a somewhat tricky one to discuss because a lot of this emanates from the report on in the Blaze, and we're not going to use the name of the person or otherwise identify the person who they did name and did identify. To my mind, I mean, it's interesting to me, a lot of the time political partisans criticize the mainstream media and then, to my mind, let the media off if it is media that is aligned with their sort of ideological interests. I thought it was a very, very reckless report. It is based upon the idea that there is a software program that can identify someone's walking gait. And this, according to The Blaze, has identified with a 94% certainty this person. I mean, I would not have run with that story based on what they have or what I read. It seems to me to be clearly pointing the finger at this person. And it's not a matter of whether what one's views are on January the 6th or the pipe bomb matter itself. When you have somebody as supportive as Trump, as Dan Bongino is, talking about the fact that near 24-hour work hasn't, on what is perceived to be this report, has not produced a breakthrough, and some of the media reports regarding prior persons of interest is grossly inaccurate, that seems an important point to raise to me, and you know, I'd certainly, it's not a big validation, to say the very least, for the Blaze's reporting.
Yeah, when I first read the Blaze report, I mean, reading the headline, I was like, oh wow, this is going to be not it. Because it was so aggressive of an allegation. And reading through, I mean, it was a little bit better source than I anticipated, but I don't consider myself fully bought into the idea of gait analysis in the first place. Mm-hmm. And I think the way that I probably would have run the story is I would have gone with the fact that the FBI had done this gait analysis, that they believed that they had a confident match, but I would not have named the person mm-hmm. that they believed it had matched to. Because reading through the piece, there's a lot of other conjecture about the use of a smart trip card, right, and whether it belonged to a neighbor or a friend but wasn't used by that neighbor or the friend. And basically you get not a lot of direct evidence besides the gate analysis that this person was the one who actually committed the bombing.
Right.
And that's really where the problem lies in the reporting.
Exactly.
Dan Bongino has obviously had a lot of criticism from people who used to be some of his ardent supporters during his time at the FBI, whether it was for this pipe bombing case or during the initial complaints over the lack of release of the Epstein files. Right. And I know Dan, he's been very good to me. I think he's a sincere guy. I think he really cares about these issues. And people who have been accusing him of being like co-opted by the deep state, I think are really missing the mark on that one. Maybe there's an argument to be made that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino didn't have enough experience to run the FBI properly, but the idea that they have suddenly turned on MAGA, as it were, I think is not right.
No, and I think that the fact that that allegation is made by some, what would you say, ultra MAGA type people, just points to the idea that if people can't let their political biases just get carried away to the point where they literally won't accept any information at all, like, it would obviously be in Dan Bongino's career interests and aligned with his political philosophy if he could point to some element of an inside job or something with this case. He's coming out and saying publicly in relation to this Blaze report, well, he doesn't specifically say the Blaze report, but everyone assumes that's what he's talking about. And he's basically indicating that that reporting is wrong. It would be in his interest for that reporting to be right, if you see what I mean. And he's saying that that's not the case. I assume the reason for the statement is that he has the facts before him now that he is a deputy director of the FBI, and that those facts, he's going with those facts rather than the sort of wild conjecture in a kind of MAGA media world.
And also for those ultra MAGA people, as you described them, it's not mutually exclusive that the Blaze report can be inaccurate and it could still be an inside job, right? Like the whole point is that there's no conclusive evidence of who committed the attack. So it doesn't preclude you from still being critical of law enforcement or what happened on January 6th. And so to me, it seems like they are sort of so hyper-focused on something that they wouldn't even need to confirm their priors.
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, I think that there is, you and I have very different views on this. I think there is a concerted push to, including, for example, by Trump suggesting that the FBI secretly put, I think, 240 agents into the crowd before January the 6th, where in fact that batch of FBI personnel was sent after the breach had taken place. There's a whole separate Inspector General's report, which we could get into, about 23 agents, and 20 of them had come to Washington of their own volition, blah, blah, blah. My point is that I think MAGA world and Trump personally cast aspersions on January the 6th to try to exculpate himself for his conduct.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making a totally separate point, which is that you don't need the Blaze report to still believe, that that's what happened, if that's what their argument is.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that point.
All right, next up on Rising, are women looking to leave the United States? We'll find out after this.